Assalamu alaikum. Good afternoon. I think, Abu Faisal, thank you very much for making this just in time. I think we have recovered the time that was wasted during the break. First of all, I want to thank the MSX, Haitham, and the rest of the team for having organized this event for all of us to be here together, especially as we're coming out of COVID. And I want to thank all of you for spending your time here listening to us. I hope we can make your time worth it. This is the coverage of the presentation I have. I will skip some of them because they've already been extensively covered, so there is no point of repeating them again. But most importantly, maybe it will be good to introduce Sohar International. Maybe for some, being a very young bank, we are just 15-year young, dynamic, vibrant, fast-growing, digital-savvy, third largest bank in Oman. So this is Sohar International that has grown so rapidly since its inception to acquire the #3 position in total assets. The shareholding structure changed quite significantly towards the end of 2017, and you can see we are predominantly owned by government institutions, almost 70%, and then the rest is the private and public institutions. We'll talk more about the financial part. We've got a section on that, but we're serving over 270,000 customers all across Oman, all the segments across the spectrum through our phygital channels, both physical and digital, all across Oman. The key strengths of the bank may be to highlight very few that we observe and have implemented a very strong corporate governance supported with a very robust risk management framework with a strong ownership and sound capitalization, liquidity, and obviously profitability matrices that we are going to see in the financial section. That was just to introduce the bank briefly. The operating environment, I will not touch any of this because the ladies that preceded us in their presentations did a brilliant job. And I want to thank them and congratulate them for what they've done. Actually, they clarified the macro picture for Oman, for many of us, that this presentation, and in particular this slide, may not be sufficient to add anything more than what they have done. Maybe I could give a different context beyond Oman, just to understand and more importantly to appreciate what Oman has done during the last few years, and in particular how we have progressed with different reforms and economic diversification programs. If you look at the global landscape, the economic landscape is changing and changing rapidly. It is also very uncertain, very complex, very ambiguous, and very volatile to navigate through. And all of these are actually characterized and powered by three major forces that we see, and these forces are actually shifting the economics gravity from west to east. We see that happening. And as a result, we see a lot of disruptions. As a result, we see opportunities are coming more from emerging markets, more from emerging economies that will contribute significantly into the GDP growth of the world. So we are sitting in the middle of this. And we have in place a robust plan. We have progressed very well with robust infrastructure and institutional framework. And I think it is a high time for us to seize the opportunities that all of these changes are happening and take Oman to the next level. And all of us here in the room, with the institutions we represent, I think can play a significant role in making that happen. So the Oman banking sector, obviously, Abu Faisal has touched and explained that quite extensively. I don't need to repeat that. But I think the sector also has contributed proactively during the COVID to support a lot of customers. We played an instrumental role, of course, with the support of the regulators, to support a lot of customers, both retail, commercial, and institutional customers that needed support at the time. So we continue to do that, and it demonstrated a lot of resilience during the crisis of our generation. And I think with that, we should continue to invest into this sector because it's a critical part of the overall economic diversification plan. Now, as a bank, we observe very robust governance frameworks, just to give you an idea, with the robust risk management as well. And this is the way we are structured with different committees in governing the affairs of the bank. Now, this is where I want to spend a little bit of more time for the time that I have before I can take your questions. Our business is categorized into three different groups, broad groups: the wholesale banking, the retail banking, and the Islamic banking. The wholesale banking actually consists of corporate, institutional, and as you can see, SMEs and financial institutions, treasury, which we call it global markets within. And it's a very big part of our business within the bank that has 70% of the bank. And then, of course, we have the retail banking that has the typical retail plus the wealth management, and the thriving Islamic banking that also is growing and growing quite impressively. Now, maybe before I talk about that, I would like to talk about this particular slide. You know, back in 1994, there was a profound visionary statement made by Bill Gates that banking is necessary, but banks are not. This, we have witnessed over decades how that statement, how that visionary statement is actually unfolding in front of our eyes, that our direct competitors as banks are not necessarily ourselves as banks, but beyond banks, because a lot of non-banks organizations are chipping into banking business. And I think it's important to be aware, and because it's a natural force that you cannot fight, you should just embrace that force and see what you can do at that. So these four key aspects of the strategy formulation were critical as we were thinking to plan our way forward. Because in any business, I think it's important to make sure you stay relevant and resilient in everything we do. And given the circumstances and the changes and the fast-changing marketplace, I think it is very important to do that. So with that, we developed the business model. And that business model cut across all of this. So the first we thought is the business of banking. How the business of banking tomorrow will look like. And what does that mean today? And how can we navigate through? With customers, there is a lot to be done as well. But how the customers of tomorrow are going to demand from us as banks, especially when the competitive landscape is going to change and changing rapidly. And the value chains that everybody is playing a very active role in offering services similar to banking. And then, of course, what kind of capabilities as banks we need to put in place to be able to navigate through that competitive landscape that we foresee. That is the kind of thinking we had, and then we defined the vision for ourselves going forward. And that vision is to become a service company. A service company that helps customers, communities, and people to prosper and grow. Now, this vision may sound different, and it is different. It's underpinned with 5 key foundational pillars. First, the purpose, and everyone, I think, before me has talked about the purpose. The purpose is the reason for why we exist in the first place. For us, the purpose of the bank is to, we call it internally, is to help you win. Basically, what we mean by that is to create great experiences, great relationships, enriching lives. And there we feel it connects well with the people we serve. And the promise is to deliver the responsive and responsible services in this ever-changing world. And the principles, there are 3 principles that we observe. The first principle is more velocity. Given what's happening in the market, I think speed, scale, and simplicity are critical. And that's what this first principle means. The second one is more value. Whatever we do should actually connect to the customer's world, should be relevant to the customers. Otherwise, if you are irrelevant, you will not be needed. If you are not needed, you will not be missed if you are not around. And the third one is more vision. The more vision is always being progressive in our thinking. And therefore, understanding the customer's both expressed and latent needs. And this is actually important, especially in the digital age, where all of these changes that are happening, it will not be about size or just speed to survive, but it will be the ability to adapt to all the changes that are happening in the marketplace. Now, to adapt, you need to have that kind of progressive approach as you navigate through all of these changes. The fourth one is the personality. This is very much internal. This is to do with 3 things as well for people that guide us to make all the choices in investments, both in three choices in people, in systems, and in processes. The personality of being sharp. Sharp is simply to be knowing what everyone is doing within the bank. Everyone needs to know what he's supposed to be doing. He's trained well, he's capable of what he's doing, and he's well equipped with what he needs to serve the customers better, to serve our stakeholders better. The second one is being human. Being human is all about that human touch. Within the digital, see, what technology has done is connecting the world and disconnected people, disconnected humans. So in the digital age, with all that is happening with the digitalization, that human touch is gradually and fundamentally missing. And we are seeing that every day. So we need to maintain that And if it's part of the overall model, I think it's very powerful, because at the end of the day, we are human beings. We are social animals. That social aspect needs to be maintained as we do our business. And the last one is being unstoppable. Unstoppable is all to do with the resilience in our business. And with all of these together, they create that experience of being in the game. So it's a very different philosophy that we follow in crafting that vision. Obviously, all of these have got different themes and different initiatives that are under implementation to make them happen, and we can see the results of that. So over time, we've got a very clear vision, very clear values and strategy. We have rewired the structure and design within the organization, set the management rhythm within on how we operate in the context of this. Obviously, built a lot of capabilities in systems, people, and processes. Right, I talked about this. At the moment, we are pursuing these key growth priorities. We are scaling up beyond borders for the first time. We are opening up in Saudi Arabia, inshallah, soon. We are strengthening our capital base. The rights issue is already announced. 160 million will be closing by the end of this month, inshallah. And obviously, solidifying our domestic presence. I think that is important in scaling up our business, and especially given the capabilities that we put in place, I think that will go a long way to create a lot more values and build a lot of relationships and create great experiences and enriching lives, which actually boils down to the very essence of why we exist when I talked about the purpose. And we have appointed the head of ESG, and today morning I was very pleased to see the ladies presenting here. I say, look at what Oman is actually doing. We are already having the ESG implemented, but we just want to put these bits and pieces together and present them to the external stakeholders in particular and showcase how Oman has progressed in all aspects. That will be very important. So we have appointed the head of ESG for us, and we are implementing a lot of policies, procedures, and practices that conform to the international best practices. As we are growing and going beyond borders, I think it's important to have this aspect of the organization delivered. So the bank has progressed over the last 15 years quite well. And in particular, the major changes took in 2017 when the shareholder structure completely changed and the new direction of the bank was completely redefined and the new team was put in place. So we came from inception to stabilization, we worked on the transformation, and now we are working on growth. Obviously, we don't want to talk too much about the accolades and all the awards we have actually been able to achieve over the last couple of years or 3, but this is what has been done for the first half of the year. We have been able to perform quite well, and you can see there the net profit was up by 22%, but more importantly, I think, is on the operating profit. I think that is an important part, which has grown by 13%. And all the ratios, given the history of the bank, I think are on the right track and are pointing on the right direction. We'll continue to do that. So it's not just only the performance indicators we look at, we also look at the health indicators. So we keep both of them hand in hand as we navigate through and through this very challenging marketplace. Okay, on earnings and profitability, you may see how we have progressed. Obviously, if you just look at the slides in isolation without having the insight, you'll have a very different interpretation. But if you understand or you have the insight, the profitability, for example, the net interest margin. The net interest margin if we look back in history, we had a lot of concentration. We had to do a lot of diversification, be it in our income streams, be it in our book, to make sure that we sustain what we achieve. And as you can see, the cost of fund has drastically come down. And that was because of the consistent focus we kept to deploy or mobilize low-cost deposits. And CASA was the major drive right from the beginning of the new transformational journey, and that has grown from about 38% to 63% today of the total, 63% of the total deposits. That has helped us a lot to bring down the cost of funds so we can help customers with better pricing. And obviously, as you can see, the return on equity is among the highest in the banking sector, and return on assets continues to be at the level which is within the market median. The asset quality, this has been a major issue that we needed to address and when we started the new journey, because we believe internally that there is no point of keeping the fish under the table. We better bring it on the table, clean it up, grill it, and enjoy the meal. So we have head-on actually addressed all of those difficult issues and make sure that we pave the way to sustain their growth and profitability going forward while increasing all of the health indicators. On the funding and liquidity, as I've talked to you, you can see how CASA is actually grown up. That has significantly helped us to bring down the cost of fund. We have very robust liquidity buffers. Both LCR and NSFR are actually sitting at the very comfortable position as we speak. Even during the crisis, we were able to achieve that. And the decline we achieved on the loan-to-deposit ratio, that again has been a major improvement to bring down from 124 all the way down to 106. And the 124, once upon a time, was almost 140. So we have done that without necessarily jacking up our cost of fund, which is something extremely difficult. It's like swimming against the waves. It's extremely challenging, but we've been able to do that. Obviously, on capitalization, we continue to beef up our capital buffers. We have sufficient amount of capital to support our growth plans, and we are going to augment that capital with the rights issue and refinancing the perpetual as well, which is out there in the market already. And all together, all of these actually will improve the overall balance sheet quality as we go forward. These are just details of the financials that I've talked about, but I wanted to make sure this is also covered as part of the compliance requirements. And now I will be ready for your questions if you have got any questions. Yes. وعليكم السلام ورحمة.
شكرا للبرزنتيشن اللي عرضت لنا اياه اليوم. سؤالي كان عن ال recent announcement of Sohar International's potential merger مع HSBC. I just want to understand your take on the value add that you see and what's the end goal eventually if this merger actually succeeds.
The end goal is very simple, is to solidify our domestic presence as we are internationalizing our presence. And I think, like what Abu Faisal said, this is just a natural phenomenon. The market, I think, needs this, and this consolidation will add a lot of value, and we have learned that lesson during the pandemic. I think if we have bigger banks in your domestic market, will go a long way to support the economy even during the most challenging times like the one we have just gone through.
Thank you. Just a follow-up to that, does that not take over the idea of having international banks present as well in Oman? Or how do you?
No,
how do you
actually,
think that?
that's not the case. HSBC made it very clear that they intend to stay here, and they disclosed that in the market. If you follow the news very closely, they are not going to exit the Omani market. They are going to be present.
Very clear. Thank you.
Yes. Any other question? Yes.
Hello. Yeah. So regarding the Bank Nizwa merger, if
Can you
there's
introduce
any...
yourself?
Sorry?
Can you introduce yourself?
My name is Talal Al-Qadi. I work with Tanmiya, Oman
Okay.
National Investment
Yeah.
Development
Yeah.
Company.
Yes.
So I'd just like to know if because we heard about the potential merger with Bank Nizwa initially, but then it kind of went quiet following the HSBC announcement.
Yes.
Also, I'm just trying to understand how it will work from the perspective that Bank Nizwa is a Sharia compliant bank, Bank Sohar being conventional. Would it be something similar to the OAB Bank Al-Izz situation? Thank you.
Okay, I think it's premature to talk about the structure, but are we pursuing that particular transaction? The answer is yes. I think we have disclosed that very clearly in the market, and we'll be keeping the market updated on the progress we make. Any other question? Okay, thank you very much. Oh, you still want to ask? Yeah, تفضل.
In terms of the HSBC merger, how soon do you expect the synergies to take effect? How soon do you expect the synergies to take effect following the merger?
يا أخي أنت you're jumping the gun. Let's go through the process. We just started the process. Let's go through the process, complete the process, and all of those issues will be addressed. ها؟ كيف؟ هنت ماليش؟ We will be updating the market as and when we make progress. As simple as that. Yes, any other question? Thank you very much, and have a great lunch. Thank you.